G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. What a week. My gosh. Hard to believe how much goes on in this space in 1 week. It is mind-bending. And we're in a number go up phase. I think that's quite clear now. I think, 60% up, 65% up this year? Bet you're happy you've got some Bitcoin, and I bet you're happy you're not holding too many other assets. And certainly no shitcoins. So Bitcoin has come into its own. Banking crises around the world. Shit is hitting the fan and going everywhere. It is chaos. Next couple of weeks going to be crazy. Next couple of months could be crazy too. And I'll talk about something that was put up yesterday. I'm really looking forward to the open tomorrow just to see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. But let's dive in. We're going to start with old mate Jim Cramer. Don't know if you know Jim Cramer. He's what would I call him? An actor on CNBC. He is apparently a financial expert. He has no fucking clue. He literally calls the top as buy signals and the bottoms as sell signals. And actually someone's invented an inverse Cramer ETF where basically whatever he calls, you do the opposite and you go pretty well. So let's hear what he has to say about Bitcoin at the minute.
And I would sell my Bitcoin right into this rally. And believe me, I had been a believer one time in Bitcoin. Not here, not now.
Let's not forget, Jim just called maybe a month ago that Silicon Valley Bank was a buy. They're under now, and they've really been a part of this whole banking crisis from day dot. Signature, Silvergate, Silicon Valley. We've been through this before, and now there's a couple of hundred banks, they say, in America who are starting to battle. I think there's more than that around the world. Credit Suisse is basically gone under and been sold for pennies on the dollar, and it's very interesting times. Now, when this happens, the Treasury Secretary, in this case Janet Yellen, gets dragged in front of Congress, and they pepper her with a lot of shit questions because the Congress people don't really know much about much, it seems, when you listen to some of their questions. But some folks ask some great questions. And this exchange that you're going to hear now is a really, really interesting one, because Yellen says in a nutshell that they're not going to cover people's deposits. But everyone is under the impression they are. And what the government is looking for is Jerome Powell, the Fed, to step in and say, we're going to cover everything. There's cries for that at the minute. But that is, and I'm going to show you some graphs later. We're at the beginning of a new era of QE, because to bail out these banks, it's going to cost trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. They're all insolvent, all of them, all around the world, because they've all done the same trade. They've bought long-dated bonds, which are now completely underwater, and they're getting crushed. So, and I should say, half of their portfolio is made up of shit commercial property, which has changed. The commercial property game has changed because half the people now, let's say 40% of the people now working from home or like remote working. ChatGPT 4 is out. That's going to cut out another swathe of jobs that go to offices. I mean, it's problematic. Just think about it. We don't live in a fairy tale. Shit goes down. Let's hear what the lovely Janet Yellen has to say.
Don't have time. I'd need to be able to drill in on a couple things. Let me start with some of the banking issues we're dealing with on it. Will the deposits in every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of their size, be fully insured now? Are they fully recovered? Every bank, every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of the size of the deposit, will they get the same treatment that SVB just got or Signature Bank just got?
A bank only gets that treatment if a majority of the FDIC board, a supermajority of the Fed board, and I, in consultation with the president, determine that the failure to protect uninsured depositors would create systemic risk and significant economic and financial consequences.
So what is your
we
plan?
made that determination.
Right. So what is your plan to keep large depositors from moving their funds out of community banks into the big banks? We have seen the mergers of banks over the past decade. I'm concerned you're about to accelerate that by encouraging anyone who has a large deposit in a community bank to say, we're not going to make you whole, but if you go to one of our preferred banks, we will make you whole at that point.
Look, I mean, that's certainly not something that we're encouraging.
That is happening right now.
That is happening because depositors are concerned about the bank failures that have happened and whether or not other banks could also
No,
fail.
it's happening
And
because you're fully insured no matter what the amount is if you're in a big bank. You're not fully insured if you're in a community bank.
Well, you're not fully insured. And
You were at Signature, and it just barely met that threshold. You were at Signature.
Well, we felt that there was a serious risk of contagion that could have brought down and triggered runs on many banks. And that's something, given that our judgment is that the banking system overall is safe and sound, depositors should have confidence in the system, and we took these actions.
So there's a
to
special
discourage
assessment that's been done
contagion.
on community banks in my state and all banks across the country. Was there any discussion that special assessment would only apply to the larger banks, or was it always assumed the special assessment would cover every bank, including rural banks in my state?
I think I'm not certain what the rules are around that. That's for the FDIC to determine.
It has been reported publicly that SVB had a large number of Chinese investors that are there, including some that were companies directly connected to the Chinese Communist Party. Will those individuals, companies, entities, and investors that are Chinese investors be made whole based on assessments in my banks in Oklahoma? So what I'm asking is, will my banks in Oklahoma pay a special assessment to be able to make Chinese investors whole from Silicon Valley Bank?
Uninsured investors will be made whole in that bank, and I suppose that could include foreign depositors, but I don't believe there's any legal basis to discriminate among uninsured.
I get it, but I'm just saying my community banks are going to pay this additional fee. It is always fascinating to me as well, the conversation that taxpayers are being made whole in this, that taxpayers are not going to have any kind of consequence on this. I'm sure my bankers are going to be very excited to know they no longer pay taxes, and their banks no longer pay taxes. Credit unions don't pay taxes, banks do, and so they're definitely taxpayers as well, and all banks make their revenue off of rates and fees and such to their account holders, which means every Oklahoman will pay higher fees in their community bank.
We're just going to have to move on.
If we have a collapse of the banking system and its economic consequences, that will have very severe effects on banks in Oklahoma that will also be threatened.
I'm just worried about the long-term
We are going to have to move
on our
on,
banks as
or
well.
we're not going to get all senators in. Senator Cortez.
So here's one of those graphs. You can see what happened last week. They pumped in $300 billion. Now this little part of the balance sheet looks horrific, but this is where they were tapering the Fed. They've already put back on half in just a couple of days of all that work they've done. So, things aren't looking good. Recession is imminent now. Banking crisis is imminent now, it seems. It's a whole range of issues that are coming at us thick and fast. So it's going to be, as I said, very, very interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks and definitely the next couple of months. So I know what I would want to hold right now, and that would be a sovereign, fully sovereign, uncorruptible, uncorrelated, zero counterparty risk asset. Do you know any of those? So on the back of all of this unrest, and it's Sunday night right now in the US, and everyone's getting prepped for tomorrow's destruction or whatever's going to happen in the morning. That'll happen while us Australians are asleep. But there's been an absolute monstrosity of releases today from all the banks around the world. The banks are fine. We're fully, they're in great positions. We've got heaps of cash. They all have no cash. There's a liquidity issue. And here you go. The Bank of Canada, Bank of England, Bank of Japan, European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, the Swiss National Bank are today announcing a coordinated action to enhance the provision of liquidity via the standing US dollar liquidity swap line arrangement. So this is all a part of the shadow banking sector. This is euro dollars, a lot of this, which is offshore, which no one can account for. A lot of these transactions are done in euro dollars, they're called. No one knows how many euro dollars there are. It's untrackable. It's like a shadow banking sector. So all very scary at the minute. And, what's going to happen here? No one knows, I think. But I think that potentially one outcome is going to be money printing. And you know who thrives in money printing? Do you? Here's some more Twitter releases. Here's the European Central Bank full release. Coordinated central bank action to enhance provisions. There you go. You can read that document there. The breaking market news obviously has all of the latest stuff straight off the bat. We got the same message again going out regarding all of the sovereign nations. And then we've got RBA messages coming out as well, even now. Australian banks are undeniably strong. Fed's Powell and US Treasury Secretary Yellen. The US banking system, capital and liquidity positions are robust, and the US financial system is resilient. Joint statement. So, these are all of the kinds of things you would hear if there was an actual problem. These are the reassuring messages that they pump out into the market to try to, make you feel safe with a warm blanket when there's actually a real issue. So, we'll see. Time will tell if everyone is actually undeniably strong. Now, you'll notice in all of this, just for the Australians out there, let me give you a little tip here. In all of the main releases here, the RBA, the Australian Bank, was never mentioned because no one wants fucking Australian dollars. They're shite and they're not going to go well in the future. So yeah, they're not a big part of the world economy. Don't fool yourself into thinking that you live in some sort of, absolute haven of power and, the Australian dollar and the Australians in general, we basically account for almost nothing of the world. Economy, energy, waste, all this stuff. We think that we actually make a difference. We don't. That's just so you know. But yeah, it's all very concerning at the minute. No doubt about that. Now, in complete contrast to the shit that's coming out of the Federal Reserves or the central bankers of the world and the next layer down, the actual banking sector, here is a lovely little statement from Satoshi back in 2008. Statement by Satoshi Nakamoto, creator and developer of Bitcoin's original reference implementation on 31st of October 2008. The root problem with conventional currency is all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency. Banks must be trusted to hold our money and transfer it electronically, but they lend it out in waves of credit bubbles with barely a fraction in reserve. Bitcoin's solution is to use a peer-to-peer network to check for double spending. The result is a distributed system with no single point of failure. Users hold the crypto keys to their own money and transact directly with each other. It's all starting to make fairly good sense now. I hope this incident or this set of actions that's occurring around us at the minute is getting people to look into, at least read about Bitcoin. You don't even have to, I don't even want you to do anything. Just learn about it and that'll be enough. You'll get it. You will get it. Read about Bitcoin. You'll understand. Wow. So I said at the start, there has been some sort of decoupling regarding Bitcoin and this year's price action. It's actually up 69%, or it's probably 65% now. But you can see here against some of the other asset classes, S&P, gold, oil, etc. It's really decoupling. It's really showing its strength into the time of crisis. This is a banking crisis. And, it is actually different to other times. It didn't do what everyone thought it would do during COVID. And there have been a few other times over the years where it just sort of reacted equally like a risk-on asset or like a leveraged risk-on asset. But now in this is the first time that's actually been involved in a banking type crisis where banks are almost insolvent. And I think if nothing else, it's getting people to look at this. Folks who have more than $250,000 in the bank, should consider Bitcoin for a large portion of the part over 250, because they're not insured for that anyway. Whether Jerome Powell says they're going to be or not is irrelevant. You are at risk of contagion and counterparty if you hold more than that in any bank. It's just the way it is. You can read the fine print. If you don't believe what I'm saying to you, you need to read the fine print. It's just the way it is. So here's the CBBI. Love the CBBI. You can see here 28.2 currently. Whether it's that now, it's probably something in the mid 27 ranges when I took this screenshot. But confidence is up. Things are flying. Plenty of people called it dead. It ain't dead. It's flying along here. And let's keep an eye on this. Hopefully we can get this spike up a little bit further and get some real action going into the 30k US area. Then we'll have to reassess. It's been crazy already, let's be honest. But let's see if we can milk a little bit more out of this bad boy. Have some more fun before we get to the halving when it really starts to heat up. So very interesting to keep an eye on this one. So this chart is from Rex Capital. He's got a really good YouTube channel and a lot of good analysis actually, if you do want to check it out. He's a very calm thinker. Looks at these time frames in monthlies, weeklies, and it's such a better way to look at Bitcoin rather than hourlies and 15-minute candles and degen stuff. It's too volatile over these short periods of time, and that's why you shouldn't use leverage, quite frankly, because it just mind fucks you, for lack of a better term, because you go down so much so quickly. Obviously you can go up so much so quickly as well, but it's a scary proposition holding on to something that's in such a big loss so quickly. So these monthly candles are very nice to look at. Now, what he's done here is this is more comparison from previous cycles into the cycle that we're in. There's a lot of confluence here. You can't deny it. We've just effectively crossed across this band here, this black sort of trend line. Now you could classify that as the bear market trend line going down. And what that means is that's a bear market. So to get out of a bear market, technically on the charts, you need to break through the line of resistance, which is the black line here on these three comparisons or over 3 periods of time. 14, 18, and 22, or in 23, of course. But this is the Bitcoin chart, just so you know. But, now that we've broken through this, you can see what happens on the charts. On a smaller time frames, we've actually broken through and already retested it. But I would say that we go, we follow tradition here and we have a couple more months of green maybe. Then we sort of, go sideways, retest before we make it to the halving. I think there'll be a little bit of hype pre-halving this time around. So as we move into sort of end of March 2024, April, whatever it works out to be, this is a big halving. This takes us to the scarcest. This takes Bitcoin to being the scarcest asset on the planet. from a supply schedule, from a supply standpoint. So could be a bit of hype. I think a lot of people are going to hold it. I can't see how they wouldn't. So I've just got a few graphs and charts to go through, mainly from Glassnode. Always good to check these out. So big weeks. We've had some of the biggest up times now. Very unusual in reality over the course of the history of Bitcoin. We've just done a 35.8 week. So in a 7-day period of time, we've just gone up 35.8%, which is enormous. And this has only happened 4 or 5 times prior, as you can see by these yellow lines. The end of the bear market in 2015, the 2017 rally, the 2019 rally, and the 2021 bull market. And it's good to see so early on, in my opinion, in the cycle. I think it's fantastic. It's just such an exciting cycle to be involved in. We're only at the start. We've just technically started the bull market. So, if you haven't got in, this is a really important message. If you haven't got in, you're probably feeling like you've missed out, but you haven't actually missed out at all. You might now, if you're entering at these prices, you may be entering at the premium time at the start of the bull market. If you've been watching my videos, or these videos, I should say, for a period of time, you would have already been in. And look, I can't really stress that enough. It's my most frustrating thing that I can't get more people into Bitcoin at the right times. It's frighteningly frustrating, but that's the way it is. So yeah, just remember, this is going to go on now for another, another couple of years. We're going to be in sort of up years. So just hang on, just buy, hang on, sit and hold and watch. That's all you've got to do. You don't need to do anything else. Put in a cold hardware wallet, sit on your hands and just watch. Enjoy the ride. So we sort of go into a bull run when the red line goes in front of the blue line. Now this is an interesting chart. So the red line is large entities. These are big dogs who are whales, effectively. This has just ticked above the blue dot, which is the small average folks, like retail. So big entities are buying. Now, whether there's a correlation between the banking crisis and big entities, I assume there is. Billionaires are going to not want to hold bonds as much as they once did. If they think the currency crisis is capped, then they will buy bonds. Then that's their best bet. But if they don't want to do that, then they'll buy Bitcoin. There's only really 2 options now. You either back in the existing system, which is crumbling around your feet, or you jump out of the system and vote with your money and buy Bitcoin. It's that simple. So, commentators, particularly online, I find hilarious. They keep complaining about what's happening around them. The this, the that, the politicians here, the Fed there, the this, the that. It's not fair for these people. It's not fair for that people. It ain't going to fucking change. It's not changing. It doesn't matter who you elect. It's all the same now. It's all one big wash of credit, corruption, and there's only one way for it to go, and that's blow up or down. Hyperinflation is, probably going to actually be pretty much on the outcome, I think. But my golly gosh. So this has always been a point of contention, is stable coins. And you can see here that basically stable coins have been done. People learned that holding stable coins isn't actually safe. USDC, which is supposedly the safest, depegged a couple of weeks ago because they hold their assets in banks, and the banks are fragile as fuck. So the only stable coin you should hold is Bitcoin. I mean, it's so obvious. Now there's some other attributes to stable coins that, may be advantageous, but gee whiz, you just hold the Bitcoin. Just hold the Bitcoin and you'll be okay. You'll be okay if you can survive some time and some volatility. But you can see basically the red indicates activity away from stable coin and the position change. So Bitcoin is being bought off of exchanges, and stablecoins are being sold. And also, obviously, a lot of Bitcoin are coming off exchanges as well, which is fantastic. Another fantastic chart to look at. You just can't hate this chart. Look at the adoption. Look at the adoption. It's just up and to the right. Bang, bang, bang. Could you bet against this? Do you honestly think this is going to fall off a cliff? If you've listened to any of these videos, you realize pretty quickly that once you've done the work, you turn into a bit of a zealot, a bit of an evangelist for Bitcoin, and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You see Bitcoin exposes all of the issues that we have in our existing system. Hence why this is up and to the right. Because every day, every year, every hour, people are learning more about Bitcoin. It's clicking in their head. They experience something in real life and they're like, fuck me, I need some Bitcoin and I need to get it off of an exchange and into my possession. You know, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? My golly gosh. So this is actually from Global Macro Investor. Very strong correlation with global liquidity. And what have we just spoken about? We've spoken about low liquidity around the world in the banking system, and that the Fed has opened up every possible faucet of liquidity provisions available around the world. What do you think is going to happen? Honestly, what do you think is going to happen? So again, with this chart, I put it up here. Not this exact chart, but you get the idea. This is the last 3 and existing cycles overlaid on top of each other. What do you see? Do you see any similarities? Because that's exactly what I see. You see some of the same things with some of the same types of timing. Like this cycle thing is real with Bitcoin at the minute. Whether it lasts, I don't know, but you get a pretty good indication about what's going to happen. So you need to act accordingly to get the best outcomes. So, I don't know. Just do the work. It's real easy. I am not a smart unit, really. But I can get it. I get it. It's clear as day. It is clear as day. You just need to get over yourself and fucking do some work. Gosh. And I think this has a lot to do with it. I love these little hodlers. This is a classic. She's a very clever lady who does these. This is what happens. People are brainwashed. It's so obvious. They get propagandized to their entire life at school, through the media, what they read, all their friends, what they talk to, social media. It's just a propaganda fest from the media. And everyone hates Bitcoin, except for Bitcoiners. And everyone's trying to crush it. Everyone wants it to fail. Everyone, thinks it's got a flaw. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for what it needs to be. And look at the accuracy of this. Bitcoin in the media is all of these bad things. It's a killer. Kills people. It's killing the environment. It's got to destroy the planet. In real life, Bitcoin will just do what you need it to do. It just doesn't care. It's never going to react to any of this. The only thing that is reacting is your emotion. So once you can learn to master your emotion and not fucking worry about any of this shit, buy the lows, sell the highs if you must, and just hodl the fuck on and watch the price go up. Embrace the FUD. And sometimes, hopefully, you got to be able to teach someone you know about Bitcoin and get them into this thing and let them enjoy the ride as well. Hopefully it saves them from some sort of calamity down the track. Speaking of calamity, or lack thereof, Fidelity opened up. So we've just had banks around the world basically clamp down on crypto. Yet Fidelity has just opened up live purchases of Bitcoin to their retail customers. This is 40 million. They got 40 million clients. Fidelity. You know, like, it's not the most perfect Bitcoin product, right? But it's there, and people are gonna use this service to buy Bitcoin, because they're going to log on to their Fidelity account. They're suddenly going to be able to buy Bitcoin online, and they're going to do it. So, you know, this is great. This is what's going to happen is all of the big banks are going to do this, and then everyone's going to have access. And it's the way the banking sector wanted to get rid of the emerging competition for them, kill them off, then bring in their own thing for the Bitcoin and crypto market, essentially, is what I assume is going to happen. Now, this is the final piece of discussion that I want to talk about today, and it's very, very interesting. Balaji Srinivasan, you know, I don't know if you've heard of him. You might have. He's a Silicon Valley guy, entrepreneur, very smart, bit of a futurist. You know, really thinks about things in a much earlier period of time than anyone else, and he gets a lot of things right, and he invests on his thoughts, and he's usually quite successful. Now, he, over the weekend, either he knows something that no one does, or he's doing this to sort of spark some activity from big players to buy Bitcoin, or at least look into it. He's put together this bet where he's taken on this bloke, James Medlock, this is a pseudonymous account. Basically, Balaji put this together, which is the bit signal, where when things actually go wrong, his idea is that when the banking thing really does happen and it collapses fast, all of the money around the world, every person who can get access to money is going to rush into Bitcoin. He's right. It's exactly what's going to happen. We know that's going to happen. And he thinks the financial issues with the bank is much closer than anyone can predict, or anyone thinks. And that the pace at which something like this can happen is much faster than anyone can predict. Now, I've got a couple of other graphs to show you, sort of helping you wrap your head around that. But just to quickly put this into perspective, and I'm happy to look at his tweets a little bit later, if you would like. I'm going to put a link maybe in the description directly to his tweets, or you just look up Balaji and you just read the tweets. That's the best thing to do. Basically, he's put on this bet. I bet you one BTC, and he's put up $1 million to two people. So he's put up $2 million to this bet, that one Bitcoin will be worth $1 million in 90 days. That's his bet. That's what he thinks. That is a crazy gain, and it's probably unlikely, but it's also non-zero, I think. I mean, shit really has to go bad if this is going to happen. And it's a bit of a tough one to wrap your head around, because I'd say we'll be in like a societal war zone out on the streets if we have this, because we would have full banking collapse. But in saying that, he also knows how scarce and how illiquid Bitcoin is. There's just no supply. I just showed you the supply before. 70% of it is just locked up. So let's say there is a little bit of a push. You know, there's a few billionaires, a few hundred billionaires trying to get into this thing, or businesses or governments, whatever. There's none available, and it is going to thrust the price up in these crazy upbursts. Like, it's going to be hard to fathom. So I love this. He's pushing a new narrative, and people are going, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And they're looking into Bitcoin. It's fantastic. So there's a lot of tracking about this already going on. It's fantastic. Now, this is what the chart would look like for Bitcoin to get this and Balaji to win his bet. And it's by June. So it's coming right up. We're at, say, 28K now. That's at a Tesla market cap. If we get to 100K quickly, that's an Apple market cap. If we get to 500K quickly, that's a gold market cap, all the gold. If we get to US Treasury market cap quickly, that's $1 million. That's where we need to be. It's 24 trillion. So look, I'm sure he did this for marketing. He cannot be serious. But if he gets the price to move a little bit up to the upside next week and over the next 90 days, then look, he's holding a shitload of these, I would say. A few thousand, I guess. He's going to get the money back, 2 mil. 2 mil means nothing to him. He's a billionaire. So it has good shock value for punters. If it pushes the price up, fantastic. He's a believer. He doesn't really care. If you've got a few thousand Bitcoin, you don't really give a fuck about the price. Like, no offense, it sounds ridiculous. But there's nothing else you can hold that has potential upside like this. So, you just don't really care. This is what I was talking about with some of these graphs. This has happened in the past. And you can see here at the end of World War I, Germany went through this phase. I've spoken about this many times. This was the hyperinflation. You would be very aware of this. The Weimar Republic. You would be very aware of this. This is common knowledge. You can see the price here against gold and how quickly things moved. Really fast, these things rocket around. And look at the volatility. When you overlay the volatility percentage change on top of the actual graph change over those, say, 5 years, it's frightening. Can you imagine living through this? It is insane, the volatility. And the best thing to do for you is to read this book. When Money Dies, read this book. It literally documents this entire thing. And it is a crazy time. It's one of the best books I've read in regards to giving you an actual understanding of what living in true inflation and then hyperinflation actually is. It's happening around the world right now. Argentina, Venezuela, it's all the same. The money is worthless. The currencies they're worthless. We already know that. This is Chamath Palihapitiya. And look, he's been a big Bitcoin advocate over the years. But he's also in this All In podcast. He's a Silicon Valley cuck. He's right in amongst the VC thing. He helped push the bailout, quite frankly. Now, what he does here is he's describing the bank and the banking system and how flawed it actually is and a potential solution. He's like this is what we need. But what he actually describes here, mind-blowingly, is fucking Bitcoin. Like, I'm going to play this clip for you. What he describes is Bitcoin. We've already got the solution, Chamath. You know this, bro. Chamath. It's Chamath, I think. Whatever. Like, dude. I tell you what the problem is with VCs, like these guys. They probably know all this. They know that Bitcoin is the answer. But why they don't like it, why they don't push it, is because they can't make any early plays in it. That's just the way it is. They're as equal as you are at buying this thing. They can't be the venture capitalists who get access to it, early access. They can't buy themselves a share of the entire network. They can, but they just have to do it at the price of today. Same as you. You want to get a share of the network, just fucking buy some. You buy a Bitcoin. Chamath, he has to buy 50 Bitcoin or 500 Bitcoin or 1,000 Bitcoin, whatever he wants to do. But that's not enough. They can't get the edge that way. And so until they get into real trouble and they really get that bing in their head, they're going to keep pretending like there's another option. Oh, Chamath.
So I don't see how it would be very easy for somebody to create a bank that just stores your money for you without you being charged quite a lot of money, unfortunately. I think that there has to be a different way to solve this problem. And I think that what we did after the great financial crisis was the regulators wrote down all kinds of new rules. But the crazy thing in 2008 were those rules were written on paper. And now we're in 2023 and these rules can be written in software.
All right, I'm going to leave you there today. It's been emotional. It's lots happening, lots of volatility. I want to keep my eyes on the charts. But this is Alex Gladstein from the Human Rights Foundation, and this is a very, very, very clear way to hear about Bitcoin. And I love these little, explainers. I've obviously played this before in a different format, but it's very nice to reinforce. Pass this on. Pass this video on. This is an important one this week. Share this with someone who needs to hear this stuff. I've got all the resources below. If they want to learn, the resources are below on the link. Click the link. It'll give you everything you need. Pass it on. Click the like button. That'll help pass it on through the algorithm. And thank you for watching. I really am thankful for you watching. I hope tomorrow is a big day for us in the Bitcoin space. It could be either way. It could go up, it could go down, but just be prepared for volatility. It's going to be crazy. And stay safe. Good luck. Keep your fucking seed words safe. Stay well. Good luck. And I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
So children being born today will not use paper or metal money. We have to think about what kind of cashless society do you want to live in? Do you want your children to live in? Think about when you buy something from a corner store with cash. The merchant does not know your name, your address, what the last thing you bought, maybe what you're most likely to buy next. And you know what? They didn't need to know any of that. That was fine. But now this is being taken away from us by corporations and governments who insist that for our security, they need to know everything about us. I think this is nonsense, and I think we need to fight back. And thankfully, about a decade ago, some group of people came up with a way out. If you look at the evolution of money from when we used to have a barter system through shells, through precious metals stamped with king's faces on them, to paper money, and now to credit cards and mobile payments, someone created another way to have a money system without a central authority, and that is Bitcoin. If we think about the way digital payments work today, and again, all payments will be digital, there's a third party in the middle, whether it's Visa, Venmo, PayPal, WeChat. Someone in the middle can freeze your transaction, confiscate your funds, surveil and spy on you. With Bitcoin, your transaction is completely peer-to-peer. The payment processing is done by a decentralized global competition and not by an entity. This is a revolutionary step in human history.